Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. House Bill 10 addresses an issue that President of the Senate and I, along with the respective leadership groups, have been talking about for the last couple of years, and that is how to address the changing dynamics around the pre-filing of bills. From a historical perspective, the pre-filing of bills is really a relic from biennial sessions. Back in a time when the only way to get a copy of the bill was to actually show up here, pick up a hard copy of it, and take it back to look over. The only way to participate in the process was through a committee hearing, and it was the only real way to make a bill public for any consumption was through the pre-filing of bills. And this the process of amending bills has been amended several times over the year to try to address these continuing evolution. And if you look at the bill on actually at the bottom of page 3, item 10, page 3 and 4, you'll see the stricken language in the bill actually indicates that a bill is pre-filed with the vote of a committee. And it has evolved into now a much different situation than it was ever really intended to. And with the electronic age being what it is, information is received and distributed completely differently. And there is now with the instant distribution of information, there is the perception that something with a special designation as a pre-filed bill, it appears as if it has cleared an additional hurdle. It appears as if it may meet some higher standard than simply a working document. And I think as we all know how social media has changed the way we have to do things, the idea that a pre-filed bill is possibly more in its final form than just a working document. When it's put out for public consumption, people are forced to immediately get on the side of whether they're for it or against it. Whereas the concept of a working document is to actually encourage the public to participate in the process. And I think that this will help enable that to happen and to actually invite public participation. There's been a lot of, I think, very well intended and yet maybe not completely developed legislation that has been killed over the last several years because it was put out for public consumption as a pre-filed measure, forcing people to take one side or the other. And I think it limits the evolution of a bill, and I think it limits the making of better legislation. I actually think that this will make for a much better legislative process, and that's what we always attempt to do. And so once this passes, what we will do is President Stivers and I, as the chairs of the Legislative Research Commission, will direct the LRC director to develop a public working bill site. It will still absolutely, if anybody wants to keep their legislation private until they're ready for public consumption, it will be done so. If somebody wants it out there for public consumption, it will not be assumed to be pre-filed, and will still have to have the normal process of filing a bill that we do every single day of the legislature except for the first day. And so therefore, the other benefit of this, if you throw a piece of legislation out as pre-filed now, it immediately gets introduced on the first day of session. And if it is a working copy, then it can continue to be worked, continue to be vetted, continue to be improved, and oftentimes you'll find compromise, and then that bill can be filed and actually become the filed version of the bill. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to entertain any questions, but if there are none, I would move passage of House Bill 10.